The rising hostilities between Israel and Gaza have given Iran's leadership an opportunity to reinforce their rhetoric against both the United States and Israel. Iran seeks to bolster its reputation among Muslims by portraying American backing for Israel as an unfair hegemony, using ongoing hostilities to bolster its foreign policy and regional clout. Iran's leadership has capitalized on the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Each Israeli attack, every American veto of a United Nations ceasefire, and the arrests of anti-war protesters in the United States have all added to Iran's credibility in rejecting the United States-led world order, especially in the Muslim community. The Iranian regime has built its foreign policy on a foundation of anti-Americanism, framing its actions as unjust domination. The US's continued support for Israel amid global backlash has only strengthened this narrative. Consequently, tensions between Iran and Israel are rising, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing retaliation in response to Iran's barrage of missile strikes. In line with its long-standing anti-Israel stance, Iran has been vocal in its criticism of Israel's military actions in Gaza. While the United States has tried to emphasize humanitarian concerns, many people, particularly in Muslim countries, see its warnings as insincere. A recent survey showed that only 7% viewed the United States' role positively in the conflict, while 40% viewed Iran's involvement positively. Additionally, approval ratings for Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, have surpassed those of leaders from Saudi Arabia and the UAE, causing concern among political elites in the region. Shia and Sunni factions continue to divide Muslims, with Iran perceived as the representative of the Shia. However, with the Israel-Hamas war, Iran is gaining credibility even among Sunni Muslim countries, as it supports the Sunni-armed group Hamas in its efforts to achieve uncommon unity. Further, the Gaza war has pushed together powerful Iran-backed Shia Muslim paramilitaries with militant Sunni factions in what appears to be closer cooperation between groups that differ in religious ideology but are united by opposition to Israel and the United States. Iran plays a critical role in supporting them and developing communication among them. Hamas, which initiated the attacks against Israel on October 7, 2023, that sparked the conflict, is a predominantly Sunni Muslim Palestinian movement fighting against Israel in Gaza. And Lebanese Hezbollah, a Shia Muslim movement posing serious challenge to Israel in the south since the start of the Gaza conflict. Iran supports both of them. Apart from it, Iran's missile and drone attack on Israel is reinforcing its image as the leader of the axis of resistance among Muslims. These attacks showcased Iran's military capabilities, with over 300 drones and missiles launched. Even though the actual damage was minimal, it proved Iran can inflict pain on Israel if it chooses. Israel's limited response indicates a desire to avoid war, which many neighboring countries welcome. Yet, the long-term consequences favor Iran, as this display of strength has likely garnered support for its rejectionist policies across the Muslim world. During Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's visit to Pakistan, he was treated like a celebrity, highlighting the shift in regional dynamics. The two nations agreed to significantly increase trade and issued a joint statement calling for United Nations action against Israel. The implications of a stronger Iran are troubling for America, Israel, and its Muslim monarchy allies. Iranian leaders feel validated and are likely to maintain their strong anti-US and anti-Israel rhetoric. This will also bolster Iran's missile and drone development, allowing it to project power beyond its borders through its network of proxies. This situation poses challenges for Iran's neighbors, especially those that have normalized relations with Israel, like the UAE and Bahrain. Many Arab leaders are losing credibility with their citizens due to perceived inaction on the Palestinian issue. Interestingly, Iran did not orchestrate the recent escalation initiated by Hamas on October 7th. They were as surprised as anyone else. Nevertheless, they stand to benefit significantly from the developments. The actions of the US and Israel are unintentionally enhancing Iran's appeal and strengthening its defiance on the regional stage. To understand the current relationship between the United States and its allies with Iran, we must examine their past, particularly the contentious impact of United States influence on Iranian politics and security. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Typographic Man. Iran enjoys a privileged strategic position. From the north, it is surrounded by the Caspian Sea, and from the south, by the Arabian Gulf and Sea. It is also the center of three of the world's most vital oil regions: Central Asia, the Caucasus, and the Gulf, which the United States and Western countries have long tried to control. Furthermore, Iran owns a number of islands that control the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf, as well as a 9% share of global oil reserves. A significant chapter in Iran's history is the uprising of 1979, which led to the overthrow of the monarchy on February 11th. This event, commonly known as the Iranian Revolution, paved the way for the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Since then, the Middle East has undergone significant changes, including the collapse of the Soviet Union, the rise of Islamic Republic in Central Asia, the events of September 11, 2001, in which terrorist attacks were carried out by the extremist group Al-Qaeda against the United States, the war on Afghanistan, and the subsequent war on Iraq. These events occurred in the area surrounding Iran, resulting in an increase in the United States blockade of Iran, particularly the establishment of United States military bases in Central Asia and the deployment of American fleets in the Gulf region, where Iran is effectively facing strategic isolation. United States-Iranian relations have historically been generally hostile, with the exception of rapprochements experienced under the Shah's reign and under former United States President Barack Obama, which resulted in the signature of the nuclear deal in May 2015. Nonetheless, with Trump's election as president, there has been a significant shift in the United States' attitude toward Iran, as evidenced by the withdrawal from the Iranian nuclear deal in May 2018 and the application of economic penalties on Iran. The United States established its first diplomatic presence in Iran in 1883, following the entrance of American missionaries in the 19th century. However, it wasn't until the discovery of oil that the United States' interest in the region, notably in Iran, grew significantly. During World War II, in August 1941, Iran sought an alliance in the United States against the Anglo-Soviet invasion. The United States replied by providing financial assistance and deploying 30,000 troops to Iran. This support aided Mohammad Reza Shah's rise to power after his father, and the United States' influence in Iran increased dramatically. However, the growing American presence drew criticism from Islamic leaders and nationalist groups. In 1953, a nationalist movement led by Mohammad Mossadegh deposed the Shah, but the United States supported a counter-coup that restored him, making Iran an important United States ally in the Middle East after Britain left in 1969. The 1953 coup woke up Iran's Islamic clerics, with Ayatollah Khomeini rising as a symbol of resistance to the Shah's harsh authority. It took Khomeini more than 2 decades to gather enough support to remove the Shah in 1979 and decrease US dominance in Iran. This history has some parallels today. The United States still believes in the potential of regime change in Iran, having attempted it in 1942 and 1953. Although the United States attempted to assist reformist candidates such as Mir Hossein Mousavi in 2009, their attempts failed when it became obvious that he also represented nationalist aspirations. Iranian public discontent and growing anti-American sentiment have become defining components of the country's foreign policy. The United States has failed to appreciate Iran's complex religious and ideological identity, resulting in growing isolation from the global community. This trend persisted under Khomeini and later Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, substantially reducing the United States' influence in the Middle East following Shah's demise. Iran's revolutionary enthusiasm, paired with US responses, worsened relations. Iran's strategy of neither East nor West contradicted the bipolar political milieu of the moment. This hostility grew after Iranian students kidnapped US embassy officials and the US shot down an Iranian passenger airliner in 1988, which fueled hatred. Following the Gulf War, the United States pursued a dual containment strategy that targeted both Iran and Iraq. However, this tactic backfired as Iran garnered regional support for opposing United States operations, particularly its stance on Israel. Iran forged relationships with groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah to fight American and Israeli influence. The mutual use of pejorative rhetoric, such as Islamic fundamentalism and axis of evil, heightened tensions. Following 9/11s, there were moments of potential reconciliation. The United States defeated important Iranian rivals, allowing Iran to provide logistical support in Afghanistan and reevaluate its position. However, the exposure of Iran's nuclear program sparked additional tensions, as the United accused Iran of pursuing weapons of mass destruction, while Iran advocated for its right to peaceful nuclear energy. Despite these hurdles, both parties made constructive gestures. Moderate Iranian politicians, such as Hashmi Rafsanjani and Mohammad Khatami, attempted to engage with the European Union and the United States through dialogue. However, a large trust deficit stalled any serious development. For his campaign, President Obama advocated for stronger relations, even expressing greetings for Nowruz, the Persian New Year. However, Congress's opposition to a nuclear accord, as well as Ahmadinejad's inflammatory words, exacerbated the situation. The 2010 Arab Spring compelled the United States to re-evaluate its denial policy against Iran, as it faced credibility challenges. Meanwhile, persistent sanctions and a suffering Iranian economy have prompted Iran to reconsider its foreign policy. While some argue Iran is pursuing nuclear capabilities to secure its interests, others see it as a move for regional dominance. Pertinently, since the Islamic Revolution, the Iranian regime has set up armed wings outside its boundaries. This increase in authority has received attention in the world media, with some referring to it as the establishment of a new empire in the midst of Middle Eastern upheaval. The Iranian leadership has adopted this narrative, stating that its current power is unparalleled since the days of great rulers such as Cyrus and Xerxes. Iran has used local circumstances to foster intimate relationships with a variety of groups in order to project its ideology and influence. One of its most noteworthy proxies is Hezbollah, a Lebanese group created within the Shiite community with the support of former Syrian President Hafez al-Assad. Since the early 1980s, the Revolutionary Guards have played an important role in Hezbollah's organization and training. Despite its evolution and periodic attempts to show its independence, Hezbollah remains ideologically aligned with Iran, promoting Iranian objectives in the area, particularly against the United States and Israel. During the Arab Spring, Hezbollah's links to Iran were highlighted as it supported the Syrian regime by participating in military operations and training pro-government forces. Iran has formed ties with Shiite opposition groups in Iraq, including the Islamic Dawah Party and the Supreme Council for Islamic Revolution in Iraq, Syria, as well as a network of militias led by Iran, such as the Ba'diyar Corps and the Sayyab al-Haq. Iran has also positioned itself as a supporter of the Palestinian cause, cooperating with groups in Gaza and the West Bank such as Islamic Jihad and, to a lesser extent, Hamas. While Hamas has retained some independence, it has received Iranian help during periods of isolation, particularly following Egypt's political upheavals. Overall, these alliances have increased Iran's influence and intervention capabilities in the Middle East, bolstering its deterrent through assistance for numerous militant organizations. The regime founded by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini after 1979 is referred to as the Islamic Republic, while it is founded on Shiite values in Iran and among Shiite populations overseas. It does not identify as a Shia republic. Instead, it promotes the concept of Islamic unity Wahdat-e-Islam and positions itself as a protector of the Muslim world from the global arrogance of the United States and its allies. Iran positions itself as a champion of the underprivileged, opposing the United States and supporting the Palestinian cause against Israel. This rhetoric has bolstered Iran's image in Muslim public opinion, notably in the Arab region. However, this depiction of Iran as a forerunner of Muslim struggles lasted until the Arab Spring. With the Syrian conflict, Iran's considerable backing for the Assad regime and significant engagement in the civil war became more sectarian, harming its reputation among Arab and Sunni communities. The advent of the Islamic State in 2014 highlighted Iran's pan-Shia foreign policy as Tehran's military presence in Iraq increased, potentially increasing sectarian tensions. The Cold War with Saudi Arabia became increasingly sectarian after the Arab Spring and the Shia rebellion in Bahrain, particularly after the Houthis seized control in Yemen and were portrayed by Riyadh as Iranian proxy. In response, Saudi Arabia rapidly organized a Sunni military alliance to combat the Houthis and their claimed Iranian support. Even Turkey, which normally maintains a careful relationship with Iran, criticized its activities in Yemen and Iraq. Ultimately, Tehran's affiliation with Shia forces across the Middle East, despite its reluctance to openly admit it, has landed its foreign policy in a sectarian mess. This move is hazardous for Iran, as it finds itself limited within the already divided Shiite community, unable to compete with the biggest Sunni communities outside its borders. Since the outbreak of the Hamas-Israel conflict on October 7, 2023, Iran has openly supported the Palestinian Hamas group. The ongoing bombardment of the densely populated Gaza Strip has fueled outrage among Muslims and human rights activists worldwide, especially in light of the lack of action from Arab leaders. In this context, Iran has effectively repositioned itself, presenting its direct involvement in the issue as a way to enhance its image among Muslim populations. It has emerged as a leading voice among Muslim countries advocating for the rights of oppressed Muslims. Since Iran's missile attack on Israel on October 1st, in response to the killings of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, there's been a lot of talk about how Israel might retaliate. Some believe Israel could target Iranian oil facilities or its nuclear sites. However, the Biden administration seems to oppose both options but has deployed a THAAD missile defense system and US troops to Israel, likely preparing for a potential Iranian response. Meanwhile, political figures like Donald Trump and Jared Kushner are urging Israel to strike Iran's nuclear sites. Despite previous attempts to disrupt Iran's nuclear program, like the assassination of key scientists, public support in Iran for nuclear capabilities is rising, with many now supporting the idea of developing a nuclear weapon. A strike could further solidify this resolve, pushing the program further underground and accelerating its development. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, facing criticism and looking for a way to demonstrate strength, might be repeating the mistakes of the past. Military actions in Gaza and Lebanon, as well as potential strikes on Iran, are likely to generate resentment rather than bring security to Israel. Such strategies only strengthen Iran and its allies, making any short-term gains potentially counterproductive in the long run.